Well, first of all, I feel like I can say, Mama, I made it because I'm on Spaza Talk. So I'm done now. I'm done. Like I ended up in advertising almost by accident. And so I think whilst there's immense power for the positive, as with all things in human nature, massive force of positivity can also be used for massive force of negativity. I think hashtags are incredibly powerful. You look at Make America Great Again and things like that, how they swing elections. Because what happens when your hashtag is actually being driven by bots.
Introducing Color Space, a stock photo platform dedicated to showcasing images of Black people. Whether you're a professional photographer or you just know your way around a smartphone, sign up, submit your photos, and start earning through your creativity. Visit www.colorspace.co.za.
Wow, what a day, Lips.
What a beautiful day, man.
Right? I mean, it's also a special episode today. We've got a special man today with us. For those who don't know, this is Spaza Talk, of course, and this is your boy
The special edition.
The special edition.
Yo,
Yeah.
yo.
Pressure.
By the yo, you would have heard we've got somebody who puts the pressure on everybody else, right? I don't even have a proper intro for this, Libs, but I definitely want to say, Faheem, please introduce yourself to the amazing Spaza Talk audience.
Thank you, my brothers. Well, first of all, I feel like I can say, Mama, I made it because I'm on Spaza Talk. So I'm done now. I'm done. It drops mic, exactly. But I won't drop your mic, don't worry.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, guys, I'm Faheem. What can I tell you? It's always one of those funny questions where someone says, who are you? Because I think that's the journey of life, what we're each trying to figure out is who are we really, you know?
For sure.
But practically, I'm Faheem. I'm MD of an advertising agency called M&C Saatchi Abel. I am a patriotic African. I am an Arsenal fan. Die hard.
Oh, no.
So that is going to determine how the rest of this podcast goes.
I mean, you guys are never trending.
Yeah,
so we're talking about trending topics.
There's
here,
enough. Yeah, I've got like how much time do you have to discuss Arsenal and trending topics? Yeah, man, and I'm just like a lover of nature, of simplicity, of living a life that's in line with our true nature, and that's kind of what I'm about.
Nice. Amazing.
Yeah.
At least now we know Faheem.
Sure.
The viewers know Faheem. But he's a heavyweight for those who don't know.
Yeah.
In the industry, advertising.
Hey, man, I've been
itself.
doing cardio. I've been trying to slim down. Now you're telling everyone I'm a heavyweight. I'm busy with the load shedding level 7.
I can tell by your outfit.
You're looking good, so that's great.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. So, Faheem, I think you touched on it a bit, but I want us to expand on it, which is what factors or influences guided you towards your career in advertising itself? If you could just share.
Yeah,
that.
man. Yeah, you know, it's a great question. Like I ended up in advertising almost by accident. I think from a young age, I've always loved communication. I always loved communicating. I always saw it as an art, you know. From even when I was in school, I would love doing speaking and presenting. And so I always knew I wanted to do something to do with communication. In the beginning, I thought that it was actually going to be politics. So I thought I was going to go into a career of politics, and I was quite involved politically as a student.
Nice.
I even studied politics, was one of my majors. But then I quickly realized that, you know, one can tackle that a little bit later in life. You don't need to study it and go and do it.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the problems we have, is that we have career politicians, not people who've proved themselves capable in anything else than going into politics.
Nice.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That's what you need.
So what can you do is my question, before you get into politics. So anyway, I was like, communication is what I love doing. Where else can I bring that in? And then the other thing that I've always loved is business. And I've loved entrepreneurialism. I've always been fascinated by new ideas.
Yeah.
You know, imagine the guys who first came up with ideas like Disney and Lego and these fundamental businesses that have changed the whole world. I always loved that.
Nice.
And so as I was thinking about how do I bring these things together, I ended up talking with a friend who was always going to go into advertising. And he's like, you must try this thing. So after I finished studying at GCT, then I enrolled in Red and Yellow, which is a private advertising school, where I did a post-grad. And from the first day of that post-grad, I fell in love with advertising. And I knew that this was a place where communication and business came together, and that I was going to be able to flex my imagination, which for me was always something. If I could find a career out of flexing my imagination, I've like got away with one. You know, it's like work's not supposed to be that fun, because I like to live in the idea space. For me, one of the most fun things is having a blank piece of canvas and a pen in front of me and going, like, what are we going to think about today? I love that.
Wow. And that's your life every day.
That's every day. So that's how I ended up in advertising. In terms of influences, I knew no one who worked in advertising. To be honest with you, it was a pure gamble and a pure risk. But I had a good feeling about it. And we'll talk a little bit maybe more later about following your intuition. So it wasn't a decision based on facts and logic. It was one based on intuition and feeling. It just felt right. And here we are.
Nice. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, man. I'm glad you're here.
I've learned a lot from you. I've had the privilege to learn from Faheem. There's some lessons that he gave me, but he probably thinks, it was in passing. But I always take things to heart, you know.
Yeah.
And
that's to your credit.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
No, for
I
sure.
appreciate that. But how would you explain, right, or describe to us that, how would your parents describe what you are doing? That's what I meant to say.
Hey, so this is the advertising question, eh? Because a lot of people in advertising always joke that, you know, when an ad comes on TV, their parents go, "So did you write that? Did you film that? What exactly did you do here?" So I've spent some time working on explaining that to my parents. My parents are quite well versed in what advertising is. So it's not too difficult. I think now they'd explain that my job is in running the company, making sure that, you know, the 140 people we have here are fulfilled and are doing their best work, that the clients who've trusted us with their business are happy. But I think they stay proud that I still share, you know, every ad that we do with them. And I think they can see my influence. They probably say that I spend a lot of time talking a lot, because I've always been that guy. But yeah, I think they, you know, especially for like Indian families or a lot of ethnic families, advertising is not the default choice at all. So I even have to credit my parents for being brave enough to allow me to go into a space that like people normally don't go into. Normally you must be a doctor, a lawyer, something that guarantees you a level of professionalism and stature in society.
For sure.
But I was lucky that I had the space to explore what I wanted to versus what I was expected to.
It's always amazing, man. I mean, look, I know coming from, I'm in the creative field and coming from a black family too, there's a bit of, hold back here and there. But going to social media side a little bit. Which social media platforms do you use and why? And the reason why I ask this is because we're in such a fast-paced world that all the social media platforms are popping up almost everywhere, and you want to be able to choose the one where you can engage with community. So you're all about 100%. Communicating and getting your message right. So actually, let me rephrase my question. Which platform do you use that gets your message out and why?
So I have a very interesting relationship with social media. If I think about it going back, I started first on MySpace. Then we went on to MSN Messenger, which was less of social media, but it was a communication avenue. Then Mixit came along. I'm sure you guys were at that age where you were in those chat rooms.
What was your Mixit name?
Yo, I can't remember, Fahizi or something silly. I'm making it up. I don't know. We must go check. We must check. So there was Mixit. Then I got onto Facebook, early days. I mean, I think we're the generation now who's been on Facebook and the rest for over a decade, so, you know, that's going to be amazing to see in future years. Facebook, then it went to Twitter, which I started to enjoy, because Twitter was the first one that felt different. It was conversation, it was short, it was thoughts, it was ideas. Back in the days when I think it was a beautiful space, it was a place for sharing ideas and the rest. And we'll talk a little bit about X now. I think then it was LinkedIn for me, then Instagram.
Okay.
I would say in terms of my usage, they all started to play different roles. Facebook quickly became the old place that 2008 Faheem used to say embarrassing things and at his friends and the rest of it. So to be honest with you, I don't even know what my Facebook login is anymore. I've let it just go.
Okay.
Instagram has become a personal album for me. So that's more about sharing more intimate and visual things with people who know me. So that's much more about like my life's album. So it's more personal. Twitter, basically, I don't really tweet, but I use it to basically see what's happening in the Arsenal and advertising universe. That's it. And then I'd say my most active platform is LinkedIn. And that's not just because it's a great professional kind of platform, but I found that it's become the best place to explore new ideas, to share personal parts about myself, because LinkedIn, I think, is seen as a professional network, but actually the things that resonate most is that we are not just our CVs, you know, we are whole people. And what I found on LinkedIn is the things that actually resonate with people more is when I share thoughts about life and much broader things, not sort of MD lane. So that's kind of is my kind of usage. But I took a break from Instagram last year in November. I thought, okay, let me reinvest the time. I was spending about an hour on Instagram a day. Great, it was fun, it was reels, it was memes, but I felt like the time could be repurposed to something more productive. So what I did was I took that 1 hour and I reinvested it into different things, into taking care of my health, into connecting with loved ones more, into reading, watching podcasts, and doing things that I thought had a little bit more value than just endlessly scrolling. And I found that to be an amazing period, but I'm back on now.
Lovely. I mean, there's so many social media platforms, and I'm glad you broke it down so well. I mean, we're coming back from MSN. For all those who don't know, I mean, we still used to have Mixit, and unfortunately then, I mean, there were different metrics, not unfortunately, but there were different metrics to measure. And now we use hashtags, right? And hashtags are literally one way that brands can, you know, get a message out there across to a lot of people and unite a lot of people. Do you have any hashtag that you like or resonate with, whether you've created it yourself or whether you've come across it, that you resonate with and maybe you want to share with us?
No, for sure. So I haven't created any myself that have, in a personal capacity, that have caught fire. Obviously, with the brands and the clients we work with, we've created lots of hashtags that have trended and have done well for them. But from a personal perspective, I think I've always resonated with the hashtags that were used to bring people together on causes that otherwise I don't think would have happened. And I'll give you an example. I was in Cairo, in Egypt, in the exact time when the Arab Spring started. And so the hashtag was Arab Spring, hashtag Tahrir Square. And I remember walking through that square. I was in Egypt on holiday. Walking through that square and seeing a lot of people starting to gather, and the ability to communicate was shortly after, if I recall correctly, shut down. But actually the hashtag was the way that people mobilized. So I've always been attracted by the ability of citizens to activate themselves, and then we've seen how that's continued with Black Lives Matter, with Me Too, and with other really important causes. But I think it comes with an underbelly. It isn't all positive because for me, mob justice has just moved from the streets to the tweets. And what that shift has done is sort of allowed, movements to occur and for people to rally in ways that they actually wouldn't in real life. It's free and it's easy to throw your voice against anything. And so I think whilst there's immense power for the positive, as with all things in human nature, massive force of positivity can also be used for massive force of negativity. So I think we have to watch that balance, because a new way for brands to regulate themselves and societies to regulate themselves can quickly become these kind of these social movements. But I think hashtags are incredibly powerful. You look at Make America Great Again and things like that, how they swing elections. Like, we can talk about brands, but hashtags swing elections. They change countries, they topple governments. Wow. Yes, they also drive sales. Sure. So they're exceptionally powerful, and I think it's an incredible thing that's been created. And I think let's see what AI does with that as well. Because what happens when your hashtag is actually being driven by bots and not humans? Ooh. Where do we go?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's very deep.
Question for you guys.
I think with what you said now, it goes back to the saying that goes with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, you know what I mean? And we don't realize how much power these hashtags have and how much change they have in society as a whole.
Totally.
How they impact people
100%.
in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it leads to my second question, which is around what is your perspective on the phenomenon of users engaging in brand boycotts through the use of hashtags?
Look, ultimately, like for me, the discussion doesn't start with should people be using hashtags or not. It starts with the causes that people are choosing to boycott.
Yeah.
So what are the things that people are boycotting? For example, we've seen examples of brands in South Africa that have been racially insensitive, and people have then used social media to rally and boycott those brands.
Yeah.
Now, I'd argue that is actually about a real conversation with the brand and holding brands to account. Mm-hmm. So I think when it's about holding brands to account, it's such a powerful mechanism, because before, if I disagreed with a brand, I'd be at home, maybe I'll choose not to shop there anymore. Yeah. But I wouldn't have the ability to spread that message out. And so I think companies got away with quite a lot. What this is about is just like the sort of political convo we just had. It's about holding brands to account.
Yeah.
Equally though, is I think we've got to balance this with unreasonable questions of brands and of really punishing brands and organizations and people over things that previously would have been a conversation. There has to be a space where people can learn from their mistakes without never being able to return. And so I think it's that balance. And but I mean, it's been very powerful how people are able to boycott brands or to raise issues. And I think it's about the brands who take that seriously and who have learned the lesson and have acted upon that lesson, I think have been able to succeed and use the moment of difficulty as a moment of growth.
True.
The brands who haven't used that and have gone, what do these people know? Or social media is evil, have not used the opportunity or the invitation to learn.
True.
And you won't win like that, I think.
100%.
Yeah.
Because I see that as like engagement with your customers. You know
Totally.
what I'm saying? So understanding what they want, and listening to them. I always say, don't shy away. If it's a crisis, if it's what, just own it as a brand.
Yeah.
Talk to it, because if you're quiet, people are going to create their own narrative.
100%.
And it's going to destroy your brand.
The closer you get to the fire, the quicker you can put it out.
Ooh.
Okay. Ooh. If you just follow the smoke and run back into the woods, that fire is going to grow and catch you at some stage, right? So go to the fire, or in anything.
Yeah. These are the bars I was talking about. Imagine every day.
Live on Spaza Talk.
Bars.
Look, Spaza Talk is super lucky.
No. We are. And Faheem, tell me, if there was a hashtag that would describe you, who you are, what you stand for, your principles, whether it's an existing one or you want to create your own, which hashtag would that be?
Sure, great question. So it'll be the hashtag and so it is. And so it is. And where that comes from is really the idea of things happen for a reason. And there's a great importance in recognizing or recognizing the importance of staying in the present. And so it is. Recognize this idea that things happen for a reason, and if you stay in the moment and present and you accept things, not fight things, you're always better off. And it really comes from this world of that, Lebs, of meditation, of consciousness, of being present, of not fighting things. And I find it to be a very liberating thought. Whatever happens, if you just accept it and you say, and so it is, You know, Arsenal win the league, and so it is. You know,
Come on.
you dropping bars on Spaza talk, and so it is. You know, for me, it's been a very liberating idea that when you accept things for what they are, and you go with the flow, and you don't try and resist things. It's very liberating. So I love that thought. And so I haven't used it as a hashtag, but I wish it was one that people used.
That's so interesting.
You just coined it.
Yeah, you just definitely coined it. I think we should definitely have it. And so it is.
And so it is.
So interesting.
There you go.
Love the hashtag. I mean, look, you described it so well also. And I think a lot of us try and especially in the creative industry, we're trying to fight a lot of things where you're trying to go against the grain sometimes. And sometimes just dwelling, whether it's depression or whatever it is, go through that process of it instead of trying to run away from it. So that's super interesting, man. Before we close off, we probably have 2 more questions or so.
Let's roll.
What's the one question you wish we had asked you, and how would you have answered it?
Oof. This is Diary of a CEO level
Right?
sound. Yo. You know what's interesting is it's something that I've realized recently. Often people will say, what is one of the most frequently asked questions every day? It's when someone says to another, how are you? And our answer is, no, I'm good. How are you doing? I'm good. How are you? How often do we say that?
Very often.
Then you ask the question, how are you really? And then it gets interesting. So I love that question. How are you really? Because what it forces is real connection between people. I think in our daily lives, we wear a lot of masks and we have to perform different roles, right?
For sure.
We're fathers, we're brothers, we're colleagues, we're MDs, we're whatever. And those come with answers. No, I'm good. But when you can say, how are you really? You remove all of those straight away and you get to the heart of what someone is about. And I think it forces vulnerability. And I think vulnerability is the door to real connection between people. And if we can be more vulnerable with each other and connect more, honestly, I think there's a lot more meaning that will come into every day. So I love the question, how are you really? How would I answer it? I'd say I'm doing good because I'm on Spaza Talk, guys. I made it. I told you. I made it.
You're good.
Yeah, you do. But no, I'm good is how I'd answer. I'm grateful. I'm feeling very grateful at the moment. There's a lot of awesome stuff happening, and I think I'm in that zone at the moment of being very grateful. So that's how I am really.
Nice, very nice. Last one from me.
Yes.
I hope Lebs has another one. How would you want brands, or how would you say brands can utilize the X platform to leverage and grow themselves further than their competitors? Yeah,
it's a great question, man. Normally we charge for social media strategy, but I'll give you that's why you have Lebs, yeah. That's why you have Lebs, yeah. Right? No, I'm teasing. Look, man, I think like all platforms, authenticity for me is like the door to having any real connection. I think brands have to first spend time defining the role that they play in people's lives. I think a lot of brands are not people first, they are brand or product first. So they go out there, whether it's on X or any of the other meta platforms, and they're just talking about things that they assume people are interested in. Sure. The reality is, we spoke about boycotts earlier. The biggest boycott in human history has been joined by over 400 million people in the world. And that is a boycott of advertising. It's the biggest boycott, bigger than any cause, is the boycott of advertising. So what is that telling us? It's telling us that people are less interested in brands than they've ever been. So when you assume interest and then you use platforms in that way, I'm not sure what you're doing. When you can step back and authentically go, what is the role we play in people's lives and how can we add value to people's lives? Then you've got a role to play. I mean, one of our clients, Nando's, is very famous for the role they play on social media. And during lockdown, I'll never forget that South Africans were coming onto social and begging Nando's not to leave social during lockdown because they need the humor to get by their day. They need that comic relief. So now you've defined a role for yourself that is meaningful on a platform. If Nando's during lockdown was just talking about quarter chickens and half chickens when people are at home, etc., you're missing the mark. So I think authentically finding the role you play in people's lives generally, and then coming up with a platform strategy that allows you to express that in different ways is what I'd do.
Ooh, I love that, Faheem. And I would love to expand on that because
Of course.
and I would say brands and influencers get it wrong in a sense where you entice people with certain content, they follow you, and then you start speaking about something different. And you wonder why
Yes.
you have 1 million followers, but your engagement rate is like 0 to nothing. You know, so again, be authentic in what you do. Give people what they want. Listen to your audience.
Yeah.
Don't shy away to certain topics, or if there's a crisis, don't shy away. But yeah, do you want to add?
Yeah, man, I wanted to say, I think one of the key shifts in social media that is happening is this shift from vanity to value.
Ooh.
So a lot of social media, I'd say in the last decade, was about vanity, right? So it was about vanity metrics, you know, empty impressions. You know, when I hear things like we had 100 million impressions, I go, you know, what planet are we living on? There are not even 100 million people in South Africa. So who are these peeps who are impressioning on your brand, you know?
Bots.
So and you're exactly right. It's about bots. It's about vanity metrics. It's very easy to stand up and give a report that says, you know, we had blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I think that's run out of road now. And to your point, engagement rates are lower. And that's really what matters. And I think we're going to see that shift from vanity, which is, you know, a bazillion of whatever, into value, into like, actually, what is the value that you add to people's lives? What is the value that the influencer brings or that the brand brings? And where there's value, there's always going to be meaning, you know? So I think that shift, as you rightly pointed out, is coming in social. And part of it is about taking a slightly longer term view.
Yeah.
I think the digital world has been very obsessed with short term metrics. And short term metrics have slowly been marching brands to the edge of a cliff because they've not been building anything meaning in the long term. And things of meaning, it's like, for me, one of the principal rules of life. Nothing fast lasts. Fast food's not good for you. Fast fashion doesn't last. Fast metrics don't last. Anything that's quick doesn't last. It's just like a universal principle, right? The reward has got to be in equal measure to the work it took to obtain it. Nothing quick lasts.
Nice.
So brands have to look at their brands in the same way. Medium and long-term things together with short-term things.
Amazing. And I love you talk about the scale because we both Libras, right?
That's it. Balance, baby.
I think with my last question, we're going to Pretoria with the conversation, but I'm going to offer in Grayston.
I love it.
I love asking people this question, and I did get the opportunity to ask Mike Abel, and I got his answer. I want to know yours now, right? If you were an animal, which animal would you be and why?
Oof, I love it. I mean, humans count as a species, but I think for me, I love the idea of an eagle, and the reason why is I've always been someone who likes the big picture first. I like to see where I'm going. I like to see the direction and where things are heading, but I also know when it's time to swoop down and make a kill. Because I'm hungry.
Nice. Nice.
And obviously I mean that, you know, not literally. It's about being able to go over, but being able to dive down into the detail and the rest of it. So, for me, in work, those are the two things, but also in life, you know, I enjoy the big picture. I like living an expansive life. I like trying new things, but I also like to stay grounded. And I think an eagle can play in both those zones.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got the same answer from Mike.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Funny. Yeah. Well, he has been my mentor for 11 years. So
Yeah. Amazing.
Faheem, I mean, this has been super amazing.
Thank you, guys.
We just don't have enough time, literally, but we really, really want to thank you for joining us on Spaza Talk.
thank you, man.
Really, really amazing episode. Really super awesome just to have you here talk about all different types of topics. And we don't normally get something like this. So I just want to say thank you once again for
Thank
joining
you for
us
having
on
me,
Spaza
guys.
Talk. Yeah, for
Thank
sure.
you. Anytime.
We hopefully, I mean, you know, your plans, I think you obviously announced some of your plans to on LinkedIn to shift from here
Yes.
to somewhere else, but I think we'll talk about that on a different
Perfect.
on a different platform. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to Faheem Chaudhry. I hope I'm saying that right, by the way.
Perfect.
And also I wanted to say, Libs, before we forget our sponsors,
Hey, don't forget the sponsor.
they pay the bills, right? We definitely want to shout out to Color Space. Please check them out. Color Space, that's our main sponsor. And make sure that you also visit Brandwatch. And unfortunately, we didn't do the stats this time, but
Yeah.
it is coming on this episode, on the next one after this, rather. This is a special episode. So do check out Brand Watch, who's also one of our sponsors for this episode.
And you can follow Faheem on LinkedIn for some bars, man.
Definitely follow
Yeah,
him
come
on
through.
LinkedIn for some bars. I follow him on LinkedIn already. Definitely follow him. Faheem, but otherwise, thank you so much.
Thank you,
man.
guys. Appreciate it. Good to hang out with you.
Cool.
Ciao.
Cheers.
Introducing Color Space, a stock photo platform dedicated to showcasing images of Black people. Whether you're a professional photographer or you just know your way around a smartphone, sign up, submit your photos, and start earning through your creativity. Visit www.colorspace.co.za.